Hello, I am your host, Kathy Chester, and welcome to the Move It or Lose It podcast, a podcast about all things that move the mind, body, and soul. The Move It or Lose It podcast is for information, awareness, and inspirational purposes only. I am not a doctor, and I don't even play one on TV, so please consult your doctor before making any medical decisions. The views expressed by advertisers, guests, or contributors are their opinions and not necessarily the views of the Move It or Lose It podcast. Hello, welcome to another edition of Move It or Lose It podcast. So today we have got a guest that I'm excited to have. We've been trying to do this and now we're finally got it together. So welcome, Lisa Norris. No connection with Chuck Norris, I've been told. So yes, very excited to have you. Very like-minded.
I'm excited to be here with you, Kathy. I'm very
Thank you.
Here with you.
Thank you. Thank you. So lots of stuff that you do. You do not any way sit around and just hope that all of this stuff going on with you will just somehow just go away. So talk to me about who you are and what you do. Talk to me first about you have lupus.
Yes.
And talk to me about pre-diagnosis, how old you were, what life was like, hopes and dreams, things that you thought you were going to do before this fun lupus and other stuff came in, decided, no, we're going to make it a little tricky for you now.
Right. Okay. So I was approximately 43 years old because this has been my, maybe I was 41, something like that. So it's been about 20 years. And before that, just rolling along in life, working out was a big part of my life. I worked as a clinical researcher for a big pharma company, so I traveled a lot. And I also worked as a paramedic on the weekends or maybe one night during the week for special events. Life was great, go out with friends, date, whatever. And then I started feeling weak and not feeling good. And I'm like, I didn't know what that was, but I kept going, of course. I thought, oh, maybe it's just exhaustion. I'm getting older, whatever. I should settle down, not run around so much, not work two jobs maybe. But I was always loving the gym. To me, that was my recovery. That was my healing place.
Yeah.
And movement is healing to me, whether it's lifted, whether it's for 10 minutes or 30 minutes,
Yeah.
And so then one day I woke up and could not move my legs, and my whole body felt inflamed. I don't know why. I was fine the night before. I seemed like it. There were, like I said, certain things leading up to it, but nothing drastic. And my father lived like two buildings down, and he came over and we went to Northwestern Memorial Hospital, which is up the street from me here in Chicago. And they said, you have an autoimmune. I met, every inflammation marker was inflamed,
Wow.
Sedray, all of them, any titer, all of the inflammation markers. So, but they're like, now you have to go get a diagnosis. So
Okay.
I'm like, okay. So I remember the next, like probably day, had plans to meet my nephews at the zoo with my sister. And I'm like, I am going to this. I don't care if I have to. So I put Bengay all over my body because I didn't know. I thought maybe.
Right. We don't know.
And I showed up at the zoo, which isn't far from my house. And they're like, you smell like Bengay. I'm like, I know. But we're here at the zoo. But so that's been my attitude all along. I'm going to make it happen.
Good thing none of the animals were attracted to that.
Right.
You could have been in trouble.
And I was tired and I came home and then I got, on the phone with different doctors and started making appointments. And it took about a good 8 months to get a diagnosis.
Okay.
And I'm very lucky to have even gotten a diagnosis.
But you were diagnosed with something first before.
Polymyositis.
Okay. Now, for those who have no idea what that is, share with us.
Polymyositis, it means many muscles inflamed. It's really an orphan autoimmune, as they call it. They don't do a lot of clinical research on it because not a lot of patients have it. And in there, I finally went to, I was talking to people online, in our autoimmune chat groups. Who
Sure.
do I know? What do you know about this? What do you know? Where will you guide me? And I met a veterinarian, and I knew that was sent to me that was divine intervention because I am an animal lover, especially dogs.
Okay.
He had polymyositis, and he
Okay.
probably other autoimmunes. We only talked online, and he was so nice and supportive. Okay, and I finally went to an infectious disease doctor, and he said he confirmed. I'd gone to rheumatologists, I'd gone to neurologists, I'd gone to so many different doctors, and then a family friend was a infectious disease guy at Rush Presbyterian Hospital in Chicago, and he said, you have an autoimmune, your lymph nodes are swollen, your blood tests, it's polymyositis. And I came home, and I remember sitting on the left side of my couch and thinking, I think I'm going to die. And truly, the old me did die. I couldn't run
Yeah.
around and do two
Right.
jobs. I couldn't run around,
Right.
work out every day. I couldn't run around. And I'm like, am I ever going to get married? Am I ever,
Right.
what everything was about to change. And I got
Yeah.
on the computer with my veterinarian. And I remember one of my girlfriends says, are you being treated by a veterinarian? I'm like, no, but he's saving my life.
Isn't it funny how the last few things I've had, it's been my dermatologist and my dentist have
Yeah,
been like the people who have been the most in my care. But I'm like, why are my doctors not around? So I
I
just keep going to my
exactly.
dentist and my dermatologist. They're like, we don't know what's going on, but they just keep helping me. I'm
Thank
like,
God. I just feel like whoever it comes, like my
yeah,
OBGYN found a benign tumor in my neck. I don't know how I was so thankful when we had to take it out.
yeah,
We got to take this
wow,
out. And, your calcium
right.
high, and we got to get this parathyroid tumor out. I try to go to him for everything now because I'm like, you're good
Yeah,
at pain and stuff. But
yeah,
so I got on the computer with my veterinarian, and he said, go to the Center for Holistic Medicine before you do any rheumatological intervention. See what they
okay,
have to say, because they are MDs and they are holistic, and they'll
right.
lots of blood tests and find a happy medium for you. They save lives up there. They keep people out of wheelchairs. They're amazing, and it's amazing because they are trained MDs, but they mix Eastern Western. So that's where I got
Yes,
they're
right.
Eastern, and I'm certainly going to do my own research and mix Eastern Western. So I
Yes.
gone there. I've been with them for 20 years. Even though I haven't seen them probably the last 8, if I need them, I do a
Mhm.
telehealth or I talk to them, but I have followed
And they're in Bloomfield, Michigan.
and they're in Bloomfield,
Yeah,
Michigan. And they are phenomenal. And
yeah,
then times and then of course you have a neurologist in
yeah,
there. Then Lupus showed up. Like
right,
they said it was always probably there. It just came out,
right.
at the 7 criterias, 7 out of
Hmm.
7, I think it is. It's
Right,
supposed to be only 6, but I had more. And
right,
I'm like, okay, so now really it's lupus was maybe brewing in there too, and that's the front line.
right,
The polymyositis is a little down, so it's which is
right.
more lupus joints and you know heart, and it can affect heart or your breathing or your
Yes,
costochondritis, like muscles in between your ribs that help your
sure.
breathing or different things. So they were
How have you
amazing.
done with that, with the lupus? How has it affected you the most?
I would say in the wintertime it is so
Yeah,
rough. As
yeah,
you live in Michigan, I mean, and the
yeah,
barometric pressure drops are very rough in the Midwest. So
yeah,
if you
it
get out of
is.
here in January and
I feel
February,
like we live in the worst places for what we have.
that's what I always hear. Can you get out of there?
Yeah. Yes.
So I it's been a road, you know. I mean, at
Yeah,
first these flares scare the Jesus out of you.
for
You know,
sure. For
you're
sure.
fatigued, you
Yeah,
sometimes your feet don't work,
right.
you know, and then you just get better at it. You know, you got to
Yeah,
stay down. And the only thing that's going to help is rest and
right.
recharge.
Yeah,
Sometimes not even eating a lot, you know, maybe
right. Right.
keep a calm GI for a while. Like
Yeah, I think
smoke
especially
brings
when it's
back,
this hot, don't keep putting stuff in, make it light.
make it
And so
light.
there, yeah, so our body's not trying to process all that food. And especially I always say, don't eat so late at night, when your body's trying to process, because it just really messes up our track what much more. So try to eat early. And,
Right.
it doesn't have to be, big meals. We don't have to eat, a lot of times my clients will say, I don't know why I'm not sleeping. I had a steak last night, like 8 o'clock. I had been like, then I had potatoes. Then I had them like, let's just like go over your diet a little bit and let's try to eat a little bit later, a little bit earlier, and things like that. So it does, I always say exercise and food are the two biggest defenses we have, against
Yeah.
any autoimmune disease. And exercise often when people come and start with me, they're like, I'm so afraid. I'm like, did you think we were going to do burpees? And I'm like, that's not what we're doing. So,
Right.
we've got all sorts of with our autoimmune diseases. We have high functioning where people are doing, sorts of bodybuilding. I've got plenty of us that are in chairs that we're doing chair workouts. I do people within where they're in their beds and we're doing bed workouts. And like we talked a little about before, is I think it's so important. And I love being on my own and not a big franchise because I could look at you one day and say, you look overwhelmed. Why don't we do some breathing first? And why don't we do some stretching? And then if we're feeling up to it, then we'll start to do some easy exercising. And I think that's the key when you get to be one-on-one and your clients and it's not, this huge franchise where it's like, we're doing all these moves. Can you keep up? If you can't, I'm going to shout out like one move you can do. And for me, that's always how I've been is just be able to see you and see your face and know what you need. And so that's always been a really big deal for me to do that. And so I think that that's probably kind of where you are with your exercising is knowing where you need to be.
Yes, yes. And exercise has always been important to me since I
Mm,
was young and swimming and, you know, gymnastics, whatever our parents put us in, you know, at the time. And I
yeah.
realized, you know, it, it's, it's a key to feeling really healthy. I think
Yes.
if you go into a disease strong, you may have, you know, and keep strong as you can, you may have better results. You can't,
Yeah.
you know, you atrophy if you sit, you know,
Yeah.
you
For
that.
sure.
And I wasn't willing to atrophy. There may come a
Yeah.
day where I'm willing
Yeah. For
to sit and
sure.
atrophy, but it's not
Definitely.
yet. And I'm
Yeah.
61. So
Yeah, I mean, you look great. You're doing great. I think
praise
it's
God.
it's
Thank you.
excellent. Absolutely. I always do that. I always
And
feel
you do
like
too.
thank you. And I feel like it's exercise and I can't take credit for, I feel that God has given me, it's just really blessed me with, the ability to do more and to have, people in my life that have really helped me with that. I've had lots of people, I'm sure you have that too, that have
Yes.
come up to me during an infusion or something and said, the biggest mistake I made, older people when I was younger in my diagnosis saying, I stopped. I was moving and I stopped. And
Yeah.
once I did, then my body started to slow down. And now I can't do very much. Now
And
I'm in
yeah.
this chair and I'm like, thank you. And so
Yeah.
I didn't
Such a
stop.
gift.
I might
And
have
it's nice.
changed the way I did things, but I
Yeah.
didn't stop.
That's nice about our community, even if you
Yes.
know, it's seriously, it's about helping
Yeah,
one another, you know,
exactly.
and I do feel blessed, you know, to
Yeah.
have made it this far, you know, fairly well. And I mean, your
Yeah.
the service that you provide as a trainer and working out with autoimmune patients, I mean,
Yeah.
that is so, so huge. That's life
Yeah.
saving.
What about for you, Lisa? What about like different? I know in the MS community and the rheumatoid community, there's, I mean, back in the day, holy cow, the support groups were like,
Yeah.
remember my first support group was in a scooter shop and we're all looking like this is terrifying. And now they've gotten so much better. I lead one that I love. It's just specifically a women's one
Okay,
because
I
we
like
thought
that.
at that point it was just like we wanted women to just, I actually helped out in a men's one, just like with exercise stuff. I didn't come in, no men wanted to talk to me about like some personal stuff.
Right.
I did one with them, but it was more like exercise stuff. But the one that I run with the women, it's just, I love it. And I love it when the newly diagnosed women come in
Yes,
and,
me too.
they're nervous. Like, what do I do? What is
Right.
this? And, um, I have no idea what to start with. And then you have, I think it's a great, organic thing when you've got those of us who've been diagnosed forever and ever and those who've not been, because I think there's two different things organically happening. You've got the younger diagnosed that are looking for some
Right.
support. Then you've got the older diagnosed that have kind of lost their drive to fight. And they see the
Yeah.
younger diagnosed, they're like, wait a minute, I need to like get it moving. I need to get moving. I need to stop this kind of like, whatever, it is what it is. And so you see this like magical thing happen with the women in the support group, which I just love that.
Yeah, it is
Um,
really great.
it is really cool. So I do really love how the support groups have it. They're all going to be different. You're going to have some that, one person that will take over. But I really do enjoy the support groups now that are so different that they really do encourage each other. And I love that there is a lot more support, like you mentioned, in the different autoimmune groups.
Yes,
And do you feel like you have a good handle on your lupus now?
I do. I do. I mean, anything can happen at any time, that's what happens. But
Right. The
I know
excitement
that,
of it.
we have weather changed and it definitely, we got some nice heat going, which I love,
Yeah.
but it takes a day to adjust. I had some cramping in my hands and
Yeah.
my feet, but it'll be all
Right.
right. Like I'm not alarmed by the little things anymore.
Right.
Your horse bodies react,
Yeah.
of course, what's going to happen next, and you know um different things can happen along the way. I mean, I had about um uh trigeminal neuralgia from
Yes.
a cold I had. Like I had a chest cold and it was so
Yeah.
bad, and a bronchitis. And then I had trouble talking and I went to the
Yeah.
nurse and said like, oh, you have lupus, this can happen, that it's going to go away, your trigeminal, because there
Yeah.
are people that have that full time, that trigeminal.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God. He's like, it's
Yeah.
just
It's a big MS one
pain,
too.
and I learned that you can get these
Yeah.
crazy pop-up things and
Yeah, it
things
is.
that,
And there's so many similar to each of these autoimmune diseases that we get. And what would you say one of the most for those who may not know a lot about lupus, what are some of the most painful things that lupus patients get?
I think when you're in a flare and your gas tank is out and you are so tired, and your muscles and hands just and your legs are just not working. They are telling you to just go to bed. When you got to go to
Hmm.
bed, your body's not functioning. That can be very scary. You're like, okay, I got to go to bed.
Yeah,
Um, Certainly the pain, sometimes when you have difficulty breathing because
yeah,
you're all swollen,
hmm,
and, you know, it, things like that can be very scary the first time, second
yeah,
time, third time, or all the time, But when I just don't have any control over my body, like it's
yeah,
painful, it hurts, and I'm fatigued, and I just need to go to sleep, it could be for two
yeah,
days.
yeah. I have a
And
very, 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 she's one of my best friends that has lupus. And so I remember just like her GI tract and all of that stuff was just always, she was always dealing with that. And I didn't know I had MS then. And I was just feeling just different and weird and symptoms, but I, just shove it off. And sure, it's a strained muscle. Sure that this is just numb from working out and all that stuff. So when I heard that you had lupus, it was just very interesting to me because I love to have all the different autoimmune diseases on so that people can really understand the difference of, they're very similar, but they're also very different at the same time. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you is talk to me about your medical background.
My medical background, well, I did research. I don't do it anymore for probably 20, maybe 21 years as a clinical research associate or clinical trials researcher on different medications through the FDA process or medical devices. So I have a good knowledge of research and how to do research and science. Of course, I have a science background and degree, and along the way in college, I picked up a paramedic degree because it was a good job. And a friend of mine did with me because she was going to be a doctor. So she wanted a hands-on experience. And I just always kept the license and I love it. And that helped me also learn a lot about medicine. We do a lot of continuing education. And, we get to talk with a lot of our medical doctors that make up our consortium of emergency medicine. And I've been 37 years. And
do you still do that sometimes?
I do part-time. I try to do a couple shifts a month. And,
good for you.
Just at special events though. When we have so many of those in Chicago. And taking care of myself is a my husband and his parents are still alive at 90 and 93, so that's a lot. And they amaze me.
Now, did you ever have kids?
I did not have kids. I have 3 step kids I helped raise. They were little when we married, and now they're in their 30s and late 20s.
Wow. That's awesome.
They're awesome.
I know you said one of your biggest fears is that you wouldn't meet anyone. And I think that is scary. I was married when I was diagnosed and young, and it didn't go great. We didn't have a great marriage. And he became a pastor. I did not plan on being a pastor's wife ever. And, it just didn't work. He had different things he wanted to do, and he wanted to go. I think the MS was too much, and you never know what's going to happen. Then I met the man that was going to be my husband forever, and a wonderful, amazing dad to my kids. And now I have 5 I have 5 kids altogether, and they're all adults. So it's like, you can't, I think that's the hard part when we get to talk to the newly diagnosed or, people that have been diagnosed for a while, but are terrified of that loneliness that we have. How would you say you've dealt with like depression and things like that through the years? We know that the autoimmune disease, any of them cause a lot of that, like isolation feelings and the depression stuff.
How am I going to get through this? Or,
Sure.
why does somebody want to be even married to me? Rabbit holes like that we go in.
Right. How do you deal with those? How do you stay out of that?
Well, I think we all can go in a rabbit hole. It's just staying there. I think this is life right here, right now, and I better live it, or it's going to pass me by. And I've been blessed with a wonderful husband and great, stepsons. So, family, and I have 2 awesome nephews, and and nieces, and just wonderful aunt. I want to see all that. And uncles, and I want to see them all, be happy and get my cousins, their kids do well, and my kids do well, and hopefully their kids, grandchildren, whatever.
So it sounds like gratitude. just having that gratitude.
I'm so grateful
And
for
sometimes
what.
I think we can get I see a lot of times this, where you just get into this place of, I feel so sorry for me. And I'm just like and where
Right.
you forget, like, wait, I always have something to be grateful for. And so
Yes.
let me just help me focus on that and not to get into this, woe is me. And are you kidding? I lost this thing. Because I always do try to say that, grieving isn't just a one and done.
Right.
We're going to grieve over and over again, but
Yes.
that's okay. And we've got to grieve. We lost this thing, but then we've got to like grieve it and move forward because we can't
Yes.
stay in that black
Yeah.
hole that is just a
Right.
dark place and we don't get out of it.
And I feel like
So
being spiritual has helped me a lot, whether
very
it's
much.
religious,
I agree.
spiritual, or outside, you love Mother Nature, spiritual,
Yeah.
all of it. God,
Yeah.
all of it. Praying,
Yeah.
all of it has helped.
Exactly.
So
Do you find like as much cognitive issues with lupus?
sometimes, like especially if I'm really tired or in a
Uh,
flow cognitive, yes, I can leave the keys in the door, and my husband will be like, "You know, the keys
yeah.
in for her and stuff,"
Right. Right.
Or maybe I just need to shut my brain down and watch
Yeah.
Hallmark,
Right. Right. No,
just
makes absolute
easy,
sense.
you know.
Yeah.
Um, he's really good when I'm in a flare, and I'm very grateful and thankful because he'll be like, "Oh, you haven't eaten all day, you've been in bed all day," but sometimes he just
Right.
aches,
Right.
for me to
Yeah.
get back up and start my level of
Right.
workout I can work out at, and
Yes.
it's a whole,
Exact, which goes right into a lot of times, when I'm with a client and they're just fatigued or they're just like, I'm gonna do it. I'm like, okay, what's your why? Because I had them write down, what is your why? Why are you doing this? So Lisa, what's your why? What gets you going? What keeps you working out? What keeps you moving? What's your why?
my why is probably just life, and wanting to leave a legacy and helping
Yeah,
other people, and my life,
yeah,
I want to be an example. I want to help these because I know what it's like to be young and newly
yeah,
diagnosed, and some are even younger than me getting diagnosed. And,
yeah,
I really want to leave one day behind, a recipe, not an exact recipe because nobody could do that, but
right,
things that could be helpful where they can go, what to do, don't get caught up in this,
right,
things like that. And I think that's what keeps me going.
yeah,
Well, having a wonderful, I think family life is important. Like I said, I'm like, am I going to get married? God,
yeah,
I did.
yeah. And
Think that
that's a scary thing. For
you
all
know,
of I think any newly diagnosed female or male that I talked to, I've had so many. I did a podcast where I did single females and then single males, and then I did them together. And I talked about, there's dateable websites for us, and it's that feeling of when they go to a bar, they go to somewhere to meet. And the second they're getting along with someone and the person sees their stick or their cane, and then it's like, oh, it was really good to meet you. Bye.
you're
And it's
right.
like, it just crushes them. They're like, and so it's got to be that, I never thought I'd be remarried. I was like, who wants to remarry me with MS and 3 kids? But, God had other plans. So
Right.
it's like
That is
you
other
just
things.
got to kind of release it and say, I'm going to work on me and my
Right.
health. And then what's going to come is going to come. And so I
Yes.
think you do a really beautiful job at that and a really beautiful job at really being encouraging and uplifting and really showing. I mean, my gosh, you said you're in your 60s and you don't look like that. So I
Thank
think
you.
you do a really good job at taking care of yourself. And I always say, like, I'm doing a podcast for someone else tomorrow. And so I'm really talking about, what's kept me healthy and stuff like that. I think what our younger generations need to see is that, you don't need to see someone that's in their 40s, 50s, or 60s and looking like they're half dead. It's like
Right.
we can
Right.
we
No, you
can look
don't. It
healthy
doesn't
and
have to be like
friendly.
that.
Right. And I
Doesn't
think
need
that they
to.
need to see more of that so they're not so terrified. So I'm really
Right.
grateful to do that.
But
And
it
I
takes
think that
effort. It takes effort.
exactly. And I think the sooner the better. And the
Yes,
sooner that we can explain, like, don't stop. We know there's a grieving time. We know you got to
right.
grieve it. You got to figure out. I remember my son has MS. And when he got it, I was like, okay, let's work out. Wrong thing to say. I understand now. He was like, what? I don't want to work out. I'm pissed. And I was like, all right, you have a right to be. So he needed time, so it was like, okay, we should work out soon. So, it's like the sooner they get it, the sooner they're going to be much better later, the sooner they
Right,
get the food
right.
and all that.
And
So
you
I
are
think,
pissed first.
yeah,
Yeah, you're
for
angry, you're
sure.
angry, you're mad, you're sad, you're a million things.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
then you incorporate, so many beautiful things into your life that you may not even have if you stayed happy.
Right.
And like, the spirituality and God,
Right.
blessings and
Yeah.
gratefulness and meditation and yoga,
Absolutely.
working out and this and that,
Yeah.
good clean diet and, resting and you're not even worried about,
Right. You
the
enjoy
little
stuff that you've never even thought you'd even enjoy, something you would just take for granted.
right.
Well, like we went camping and I was just floating and just watching the sun. And I was like, it's beautiful. And I don't even know that I would have appreciated that,
Right, the
you
stars
know?
and the moon, right, exactly, exactly.
Sunset, sunrises. I was like, would I have loved this as much? Probably not. Probably not,
Right, right. Or I try to
So,
walk a mile and a half every day around my neighborhood and I see tons of beautiful flowers and I'll
yes.
look at the color and I'm like, who does that
Yes.
for like Mother Nature?
Yeah. I know my vegetable garden. I'm like, oh, look, and I get so excited about it. But I'm like, Grandma, can you see it? But it's just those things that really they're just so exciting to us now that I don't know that they would have been had we been
Exactly,
so
exactly.
healthy. But okay,
And
I want to get these
certainly
in.
dogs. Dogs
Yes.
are
Oh,
huge, huge, especially
the
golden
health.
retriever like you have.
Joy. I know,
Nothing
but
like
ours is a party dog. So I'm like, I need one more. My husband's like, I'm like, now I need that. Now I need my therapy dog. So, okay, my question I really want to know from you is, what I'm going to ask you. So, if you had one thing you could share with a newly diagnosed person that came to you, they had lupus and they're afraid, what would be that thing?
I'd say don't be afraid. But my advice would be do your research. There's groups, know your labs, there's people to talk to, connect with, do your research on lupus, on the labs, on the doctors available in your area. There's, your groups, autoimmune groups that, you can get involved with and talk to people that are a couple years ahead of you with managing this and don't be afraid and there's a lot of us here to help you. We got
Yeah.
you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's so many other groups, and there's a lot of groups that have mixed autoimmune diseases. So
Right.
it's not just like, oh, this is the rheumatoid one, this is the lupus one, this is the MS one. So I would say, like, go on to, Lord knows, I never thought I'd be on TikTok. But there's a lot of different venues. There's a lot of different things. It's not just Facebook anymore, or it's not just Instagram. There's so many different options that you can go on to find groups and talk to the society, talk to Can Do MS and see what they have. And you'll connect, like, I know with our group we have a personal Facebook group that they can get on and
Cool.
share some things. So, like, if, let's say, our time is up, but they got questions, and people, what I love better are just the different ideas, like, oh, I've got a connection for you, I've got this doctor in this area. And so then they can go on and talk to each other and message each other and say, this is the group. Or we thought about the next year meeting up in a certain spot, either Chicago or Nashville or something like
Right.
that, and just kind of connecting so we can all see each other in person. So,
Right.
just doing some fun things like that. But don't get yourself in a place that we say that you're isolated, because that's a
Right.
dark spot.
You're
And it's
not
hard sometimes to get
isolated.
out. but
Right.
just don't isolate. Just, even if it's forcing, just get out a little bit and just try to connect so we don't get into that isolation, because that's a depressing spot.
That
So
is a depressing spot. You
yeah,
need like a community around you.
yeah, for
And
sure.
it's very important. And in community is answers. There's a lot of answers.
Yes, absolutely. So Lisa, what do you see yourself doing this next year? What do you want to accomplish?
I would like to accomplish, of course, I would love to get to a place where I have no flares and remission, but that's always the goal, and it's always
Yes,
a possibility. It is always a
absolutely.
possibility, but even if not, I'd like to do a little traveling and, continue my workout journey and the podcast and sharing information. I love being a guest, to talk with people, and I
Yeah,
really want to share my information over the next year to
yeah,
help people, to help
yeah,
new diagnose or some of us that have had it for a long time, and let's swap information. What do you do?
yes,
Good.
yeah.
Maybe I can
Are you going to
incorporate.
do your own podcast?
No, I won't do my own podcast.
Yeah. No, but I
But
think it's very
I'm not
good.
that
You're a very good
technical
guest.
savvy. But I will
Yeah. Get on
share,
and spread your awareness.
pardon, spread the
Get on.
awareness.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. Well,
Thank you
Lisa, it
so
was
much.
so good to meet you. I'm so glad that we finally got to catch up.
Me
And we'll do
too.
it again for sure.
We will. Okay.
Definitely.
Thank
I
you so
loved
much
meeting
for
you.
what you do. And I love watching your workout tips and things like
Thank
that. It's
you.
incredible.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
So when anybody wants to get a hold of you, I'll be on the bottom of the show notes. So they get a hold of you. Where at?
They can DM me an autoimmune warrior info on Instagram. And
Great.
as many
Okay.
questions as you want.
Okay. And I
All
will have
right.
those at the bottom of the show notes as well. So thank you so much, Lisa, for being with us
Thank you
today.
for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And for all of you, thank you for being. Don't forget to like and subscribe and give me some ideas for some podcasts that you would like to have on, or some guests that you guys would like to have on. I will see you next week, and move it or lose it, and have a blessed day. Bye, Lisa. Bye,
Bye,
guys. We'll see you
Kathy.
again.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Move It or Lose It podcast, where you can again find us every Tuesday, and also wherever you like your podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. Join us on that, and we can't wait to see you again. We're going to have a lot of exciting guests and working together. And as always, you'll hear us say at the end of every podcast, we are stronger together. So let's do it. Let's become stronger together. Have a great day.